Oh yeah, we're doing this again. So a little under a year ago, I made a video talking about director Zack Snyder's Twitter cult, the SNY Bots. You should go watch that video, by the way. You don't have to watch that video for this one to make sense, but it gives you a broader context of the things going on. You know, it's actually very cold in here, and this jacket kind of looks like Nightmare Batman from BVS, so we're gonna roll with it. I'm also gonna put on a pin that tells people that I do drugs because I think it's funny. If I had to sum up the SNY Bots quick, fast, and in a hurry, I'd say that they're a group of people so passionate and dedicated to Snyder and his movies that they go out of their way to whine about his DC universe being canceled, people who don't like their movies, and anything that to them represents a product of Snyder's departure, most notably the new DC Universe head, James Gunn. After this video was posted, I went on record saying that I could easily make a part 2 to that video. Hell, I even put up a half-joking poll deciding what the title of this potential sequel would end up becoming. Sorry I didn't stick with that, guys. But honestly, as the year went on and I began to pick up bigger and better projects, I started to think, well, I mean, I don't really need to do a sequel to this video. Even after linking up with youtube.com/AniMedia, I went back and forth on the idea of whether I should do the sequel or not in my own head. I came to realize that I didn't want to do a part 2 because I had a lot of things to say and add on to my original video. I was saying that I could do a part 2 simply because I could, from like a checklist perspective. Because within the past year, the SNY Bots activity has not only not slowed down, it has gone up. It has gotten more egregious. And I looked at that and said to myself, well, yeah, I could do a part 2, but it would just be me saying the same shit I said again last video. I already went over how obnoxious, pathetic, and malicious the SNY Bots could be, and to just pull up another cluster of tweets and say all of the same things again, it just didn't seem necessary. So why the hell am I here now? Well, let me tell you, it's because I realized to myself, wait, hold on, they're still going? And they're getting stronger? My original video, being a year old, marks the 7th year that the SnyderVerse has been clearly and overtly canceled. And yet, for the better half of that entire time, the SNY Bots have been hammering away and still complaining. SNY Bots have just become like a car crash simulator. They keep coming up with new and inventive ways to just completely and utterly embarrass themselves. And like, I can't help but not look away when somebody inevitably comes in to ratio them. It's like watching Krillin have to fight Beerus blindfolded, or seeing Lala walk into Jimmy and Kim's apartment when Howard's there, or putting issue 1 Gwenpool up against Galactus. Like, you know what the outcome is gonna be, but what are you gonna do, not look? Okay, one more analogy. The SNY Bots are like a clingy ex.
Take me back, Wendy! My arms are too skinny to keep holding this boombox forever!
They have been told loud and clear no. And yet, despite this, they continue to do stupid and deranged shit because they've somehow convinced themselves that if they try hard enough, they can put it back together again. And the whole time, everyone is telling them to cut it out, get over it, let it go. But to the dismay of everyone, they do not stop. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, this video does have a purpose. To show just how utterly pathetic a human being can become when they're overtaken by the desire to put something back together when they just cannot. Starting with as previously mentioned in the first SNY Bots video, which you should watch, the SNY Bots just have like the biggest hate boner for any DC content that people like James Gunn fans, real DC fans, and people who actually read comics enjoy. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little. Those last two are basically exactly the same. I brought this up in a much more broad way in the first video. It wasn't so much about what they were doing, but rather how often they were doing it and what it felt like. Was it because what I thought they were doing wasn't noteworthy? No, it's because what they were doing was very fucking depressing to witness, much less discuss. See, when the SNY Bots talk about how much they hate non-Snyder related DC media, they never just talk shit on it. They talk shit on it whilst huffing from the biggest tank of copium you've ever seen in your goddamn life, like a jumbo-sized tank of galaxy gas. They will pull something sometimes comedically disconnected from the topic of Snyder or Gunn and be all, haha, this'll really show the Gunn fans. or, ha ha, Snyder would never. But the second someone responds to cult bullshit on them, they just completely crack. You know, it's getting kind of hot, but I don't really want to take the jacket off, so I'm just gonna roll up the sleeves. Here's one I found, spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine. That part was written when Deadpool and Wolverine wasn't several months old.
You can call me the...
One thing, to the Gunn cultists who are still crying about Henry Cavill's Wolverine, James Gunn's Superman isn't going to surpass Man of Steel at the box office, not even accounting for inflation, lol. Alright, so off-rip, this is some textbook Twitter bullshit, you know? You got somebody tricking themselves into believing that a certain person exists and getting mad about it. Who or which Gunn cultist started pissing and moaning about Henry Cavill being on screen for, like, less than 15 seconds? Because I looked hard as fucking shit and I couldn't find so much as a negative tweet from a Gunn supporter. And the shit about box office numbers, I don't even want to acknowledge because who gives a fuck, but it plays into the whole insecurity thing. I bet your favorite director superhero movie that isn't even out yet, that I have zero real reason to shit on, isn't going to make as much money as my director superhero movie. Like, do you not understand how that is just a completely fucking pathetic argument to even have in the first place? Apparently not, because he proceeds to have it. The Yacht decided to get into it with this James Gunn stan, which, again, why is this even an argument? But even more than that, why are you, as a Snyder bot, choosing to get into it? You're sitting in a glass house. Bro, yes it is. Y'all said the same thing about the Batman, and look, you really think Gunn can make a movie that's even 5% of the Batman? Snyder can't, skull emoji. How's that Netflix deal going after they shelved his Army of the Dead universe? I don't even care about that. You don't care, huh? Is that why you started this whole argument in the first place? Is that why you keep on going when someone pushes your buttons? Is that why you never shut the fuck up about James Gunn and his fans and how much you hate them on your profile? Because you don't care? I can't believe Marvel is so far along that they have nobodies and Z-listers in the spotlight, but DC had to start completely over for the most superficial reasons imaginable. Ah yes, the Z-list Marvel characters, Human Torch, Red Hulk, and fucking Daredevil. Nobody knew about them before Marvel got their grubby little hands on them. No sirree. I am definitely not just making things up for the sake of my argument. Funny how Borderlands looks exactly like Guardians of the Galaxy, and yet critics are destroying the movie. Do you understand what I'm getting at here? Like, who the fuck was watching the Borderlands movie and thinking about James Gunn? Apparently this fucking guy was. Do you know what I was thinking about when I was watching the Borderlands movie? Killing myself. Like a normal person. And if you had any shred of doubt as to how pathetic these people were, we have two tweets here to reassure you. One where James Gunn tweets out a picture of Chacos, and this guy responds with this. At James Gunn, at Review Fisher, at It's Cinehouse. Funny, this is how I see the current state of the DCU. Anyways, Jesus. Anyways, I'm good. I prefer original brand over the knockoff brand any day of the week. Besides, the knockoff brand just tastes bland and cheap. That is certainly a picture. Now, if you didn't know, Chacos are the in-universe equivalent of Oreos. This tweet was Gunn showing an image of a prop, and this guy used it as an opportunity to make an absolute fool out of himself. And here we have this tweet where someone brags about the fact that the Zack Snyder Lego Superman looks better than the James Gunn Lego Superman. Now, this would be pathetic enough on its own, but it somehow gets even more pathetic because the James Gunn one is not even real. I hate being this dramatic about it, but like, is this not a completely depressing way to watch movies and TV shows, constantly searching in between the lines to find reasons to hate on a person who is not aware you exist, or to uplift another person who is also not aware you exist? Hell, it doesn't even end there. Some of them can't even watch the things that they like without using it as a, hey look, my thing is so much better than yours. It is so much better. I could not imagine watching a movie as incredible and enthralling as The Batman and my first thoughts drifting towards fucking Batfleck or whatever. But the Snyder bots seem to only watch these post-Snyder movies with that mindset. Viewing everything that comes out post-Snyder as some sort of personal attack or slight against him it's fucking deranged. And again, I don't mean to get dramatic, but like, it genuinely crosses the border of obsessive more times than it doesn't. All because they refuse to let the SnyderVerse go. If you dislike a movie like The Batman or The Suicide Squad, you are more than welcome to do that, but for the love of God, have some actual reasons. I don't like this movie because this was bad as a result of this. Not, wah, this isn't what I wanted! That's a problem with comic book Twitter in general, but at the very least, when other communities do it, they aren't doing it out of spitefully trying to revive a corpse. As I mentioned in Snyder Bots 1, which you should watch, the Snyder Bots' expressed mission is to hashtag restore the SnyderVerse, and they keep doing this because, well, it worked last time! And they make it very, very clear that they refuse to put this stuff to a halt until they get ZSJL 2, or the Batfleck movie, or David Ayer's Suicide Squad, or whatever movie they're clamoring for at this exact moment. Which brings me to my next point. As we all know at this point, Zack Snyder's Twitter cult constantly e-begs to get the SnyderVerse back because this strategy did actually work for them when they were begging for ZSJL in 2021. 3 years ago. Let's be real with ourselves, Snyder Bots. If Warner Brothers saw money in the SnyderVerse, if there was ever going to be a shot that the SnyderVerse was going to be brought back, it was clearly going to be off the back of ZSJL's success. A success which clearly did not happen. Let's make like some good kush and be blunt. The SnyderVerse is not coming back. The SnyderVerse is never coming back. No matter how much you and your definitely smaller than you think pack of cronies whine for it online to come back, it is never coming back. And I don't want to be completely apathetic here. I understand that losing something as important to you as film can be heartbreaking. But like I said in the beginning of the video, it has been 7 fucking years, bro. Let it go! Here's the thing. I think a lot of Snyder Bots actually do deep down internally know that the SnyderVerse is never coming back. Because, let's be real, you don't throw this big of a fit online if you think that you can get something back easily. So with the acknowledgement in the back of their minds that they're never going to achieve their goals, they attack everybody who reminds them of this fact. And I do not just mean people who, you know, they'll go into the comment section and type, the SnyderVerse isn't coming back, cope loser. I mean something as simple as a artist drawing their rendition of the DCEU Batman saying that he should wear briefs too. It will set these fuckers into complete meltdown mode. The U in DCU stands for underwear. Now this one would be a harmless joke except for the fact that it's not. If you go into this guy's profile and look deeper into it, you will realize that he's genuinely upset at the fact that the DCU Superman has trunks. Nobody wants to see that. Only Gunn's crew of peasants. Dude, learn to type, please. I need you guys to understand that when I say that they get into arguments about literally everything, I mean that they get into arguments about literally everything. I'm talking about shit that is so minimal that unless you spend 25 hours a day online, you would never in your life understand. This shit is still funny. I'm trying to understand what you're communicating here, and I don't get it. What's funny? Oh, you're complaining about his lack of muscles. Okay. Tell you what, post a picture of yourself wearing normal clothes, and if you don't have a six-pack fucking bulging through, I'm gonna call you fat boy for the rest of your life. Oh, what's that? There are rumors that James Gunn is gonna write a Superman comic? Well, now we need to remind you that Snyder was gonna get his own comic before it was canceled, and somehow it's that bastard Gunn's fault. Oh, this Marvel fan made a kinda cringe tweet about blowing up a building? Well, this soft, wokey attitude is exactly what got the SnyderVerse canceled. Why? Because you know, it really Oh, what's that? It's been uncovered that P. Diddy was being weird with Justin Bieber when he was a child? That's funny. Did you know that James Gunn made a joke tweet that we know is a joke tweet but are choosing to overlook so we can paint Gunn in a worse light? You know that one meme where like New York is orange and shit and it's just like captioned, "How can I make this about me?" That meme may as well be patented and owned by the fucking Snyder Bots, because they would turn something as simple as the DC logo into an issue about Snyder or Gunn or whatever. Oh my, I'm sorry, they did exactly that? What? The logo for DC Studios was put on the new Penguin spinoff, and this somehow got spun into being about Gunn taking credit for Matt Reeves' work? Or you know, it's labeled as a fucking DC Studios project because it's a fucking DC Studios project. And vehemently holding on to what they once had, Snyder Bots really just completely remove the shame and self-respect from their body and leave themselves just completely wide open to be clowned on. I do not think, comparative to size, there is a group of people who gets ratioed more than the Snyder Bots. It almost makes me feel bad for them, until I realize, wait, these people are doing 99% of that to them fucking selves. But hold on. I've been talking about the Snyder Bots, generally. I have not really discussed them as individuals yet. See, the Snyder Bots, no matter how small they are still a fandom. And like every other fandom, there are gonna be people who rise to the top. And I want to go over some of the more notable ones. We're gonna start from kinda sad and work our way up to deplorable.
What a weirdo.
Alright, so this one's a little bit selfish. Who the fuck said that? But first up on the yelling squiggles is a man by the name of Kells, actually, who left a comment on my original Snyder Bots video, which you should watch. Now, what do you think he commented? A well-argued rebuttal against some of the points I may have made within that video? With no due respect, touch grass. Alright then. Now that would have been fine on its own, just a mild insult from a guy who clearly didn't watch my video, if he had not gotten into it with some rando I don't know. I'm not out here making videos on Snyder fans, Lamel. I'm a Snyder fan, so I talk about him. It's really that simple. Y'all are just so caught up in being absolute dickheads that anybody that shares remotely any kind of love for the man is a crazy cultist fan or something. Alright, so Kells. Can I call you Kells? Awesome. We are not obsessing over people who share a love for Snyder. We're clowning on and denouncing morons who use their love of Snyder as an excuse to tear people down, tell lies, and shit on other projects. And yes, you yourself were a part of that, Kells. Now, granted, I will say that you are not nearly as bad as some of your contemporaries, but you still do say some head-scratching and really embarrassing shit sometimes. Again, with no due respect, the guy who made this video needs to go outside and talk to actual people, because making an entire video dedicated towards shitting on a fan base and constantly searching for and using numerous amounts of screenshots is basement dweller energy. At this point, I had been completely absent from the conversation, so when I read this, I was like,
I'm like, what did he say fuck me for?
Again, he's talking like he watched the video, but if he really did that, he would have known that I had made an ass mountain of attempts to separate Snyder fans from Snyder Bots. There is nothing wrong with liking something. However, when you start using that thing you like as an excuse to accuse a guy of being a racist pedophile, that's when it's starts to become a problem. So at this point, I came back into the conversation and told him that I made the video because I thought it was interesting, nothing more, nothing less, to which he responded back with, if you deadass think the topic of Snyder cultist or Snyder bots is even remotely interesting, then you really need to stay off Twitter, LMFAO. Dog, I'm sorry, but I do not know how you could look at the Snyder bots and not find them interesting. Again, they accused a guy of being a racist pedophile because they don't like his movies. And as for that comment about needing to stay off Twitter, okay, you got me. And so I said as much to Kells, which led to him finishing off his little comment crybaby attack with this. We're not interesting in the slightest. It's just cape shit nerds praising their fave. It's not much different from the kind of shit you see in sports circles or anime circles, LMFAO. Okay, see, Kells, the problem with this argument is that you're operating off of the idea that the Snyder bots are a normal fandom. That's not true. I refuse to believe that you don't. Actually, that's something a lot of Snyder bots do. They like to claim that they're the average, normal, healthy fan base. And again, I refuse to believe that you believe that. To make a long argument as brief as possible, normal fandoms don't demand for a 7-year-old project to be brought back from the dead when everyone else has moved on. Normal fandoms do not get angry and cry about how when someone makes a joke about Joker 2, it's a double standards. Normal fandoms do not throw out accusations of being a racist pedophile when the guy that they don't like gets placed in charge. So basically, Kells, you're talking out your ass. Hey, why is this rando still on screen?
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
So going further down the list, I have decided to single out an individual by the name of It's Cinehouse. Now, if we take this guy and observe him from like a 5 stages of grief perspective, Holmes falls right about on denial, which is the first stage, which means this guy has not progressed at all in 7 years. Wonderful. Now, you look at his account, and for the most part, he's just doing what he's supposed to, you know, tweeting out movie news, celebrity gossip, whatever. But every once in a while, you'll get a tweet from this account that is one of 2 things. 1, spiteful garbage that is incredibly bitter towards DC whilst gassing up Zack Snyder. Now, yeah, we already talked about a barrage of these in the comparison compensation, but it bears repeating. This shit's pathetic. Just a reminder, Warner Bros. Is still over $40 billion in debt. Have a nice day. Now, yeah, this is a petty comment, but honestly, I mostly just brought it up because I wanted to say, buddy, you know, if Warner Brothers goes under, then that 0.1% chance of getting the SnyderVerse back also goes under, right? The way things are going now, you're at least going to get a cameo in their eventual multiverse movie. That cannot happen if Warner Brothers is gone. The billion laugh cry emojis for the Green Lantern casting. I don't think this guy realizes that the more emojis he uses, the less stable and secure he seems to the rest of the world. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm kind of glad that these people are likely several million miles away from me, because I don't think I'd feel safe near Cinehouse. Again with the laughing crying emojis. Dude, seek professional help. But then we have the second type of host, which is somehow even sadder. Just complete and utter delusion that the SnyderVerse in some way or form will return. I keep hearing from different sources that he will definitely be back. Bro, you honestly want Henry Cavill back in the role of a superhero so bad that you're willing to believe multiple sources telling you that he will be back? Come on, bro. Use your brain.
You gotta stop getting upset with hearing the truth. Go work on your game. Don't get mad at me, nigga. I'm here telling the truth. If somebody else should have told you this.
Now, see, this would be a more than good enough response to Mr. Here for Dynasty Football, because he is kind of being a massive asshole, but it kind of bites Cinehouse in the ass because he's sending him a message that he himself needs to hear. No, the SnyderVerse is not coming back, in spite of what multiple sources say. One thing that will not happen at WB Pictures is the restoration of the SnyderVerse. But if fans pressure them enough with hashtag ZSJL in IMAX and hashtag release the Ayer cut, it's a damn good chance that we'll receive them in 2024, as their live action DC content will be non-existent due to the strike. No, dude! There is not a damn good chance that the SnyderVerse returns if you don't stop asking for it. Let it go! Warner Brothers has now done the deal and started streaming several DC movies on Prime Video with DCEU, SnyderVerse, and Elseworld stories like The Batman, with more to come. Okay, so I have just scoured the internet for like a fucking hour, and there are like 0 reports on whatever the hell this Prime Video deal was. Cinehouse never cites his sources for anything he says, so I can only assume that he just believes whatever anyone tells him, or he pulls it out of his ass. And perhaps the craziest and saddest thing about this is that when you go into the comments of these tweets, you will see people blindly believing him. It's like a valley of lost souls. I genuinely feel despair whenever I sift through this man's comment section. So essentially, Cinehouse is the Snyder Bot's Copium dealer. He feeds everyone, including himself, lies about the revival of a corpse. And yeah, that's bad, but it isn't really deplorable yet. Let's change that.
Oh, you're a piece of shit.
And here at the bottom of the barrel of the Snyder Bots, I have singled out Jill Alexander. Now, remember when I was talking about Cinehouse and how he would be incredibly bitter and spiteful towards the DCU whenever they made announcements, but he would try to mask it as him laughing at it in a sense? Jill, can I call you Jill? Awesome. Jill does not have that mask. He does not try to hide his bitterness. Even more than that, he lets it shine loud and proud. No hate intended, but I hope this also happens for Superman 2025. So I'm not mind-meltingly stupid. I know that the whole no hate part is a joke, but like, why? Why are you so proud of being a spiteful dick that you essentially acknowledge it? It doesn't make you look cool or whatever, it just makes you look like a pompous asshole who's pissy he didn't get his way. And Jill seems to understand this, but he keeps pushing it forward, and this conversation that he has about Snyder begins to get more and more unacceptable with each passing post. He continues to drag on this false pedophilia accusation that has been pinned to James Gunn by the Snyder Bots. For those of you who don't know where this comes from, James Gunn back in the day put out a few no-no tweets that, while yes, were bad, were very clearly meant to be interpreted as jokes. Jokes which the Snyder Bots have contorted and twisted into this weird, sick accusation. And certain people have taken these obviously not real tweets far too literally. People like Jill, who not only think James Gunn is a pedo, they want him to be a pedo. He has so many tweets that are focused on James Gunn being a pedo, or insinuating that James Gunn is a pedo, or fantasizing about James Gunn being a pedo. And it's fucking disgusting, not just because it's not true, but because Jill knows it's not true. And I'm sorry, there is just absolutely zero way you take a good hard look into Gunn's past and come out with the idea, this dude's a pedophile, unless you actively come in thinking that already. And no, don't try to hide behind the excuse that you care about victims, because you don't care about victims, because there are no victims. And even further beyond that, this is not a story you would have even touched had not James Gunn affected you directly. Saying that you believe James Gunn is a pedophile is like me saying that I wasn't shocked by the size of Drake's penis. It's a complete fucking lie that you have made up out of insecurity. But truly and honestly to me, that's not even the worst part about Jill. Those other guys, they could break away from the Snyder, DC, and Gunn conversation and talk about other shit. Hell, they could just bring up Snyder in a positive way and not shit on anything else sometimes. But Jill, all Snyder, all Gunn, all day, every day, and almost none of it is positive in any way. And I'd feel sad for him if he wasn't such a massive piece of shit. Yeah, this isn't the same flavor of pathetic as those other guys were. This guy is just a genuine asshole, and I can't muster up enough sympathy to feel bad for somebody who genuinely lives and breathes on Twitter. Actually, though, in saying that, I just realized now that I have not even begun to check on other platforms what Snyder Bots were doing on there. Yeah, if a Snyder Bot can be this rampant and this insane on Twitter, who's to say what one could do if they were on YouTube? Well, I don't know. I haven't checked. I got a homie who has, though.
So letting go, it's something we all struggle with at one point or another, whether it's a job, a relationship, trauma, or, you know, a favorite TV show or movie franchise that ended before we were ready. Yeah, that. And when you've invested so much time, energy, and emotion into that specific movie or show, it's kind of easy to understand why the idea of it being over can hit so hard for many, and why that deep attachment lingers even when it's time to move on. But sometimes their refusal to let go doesn't just hurt. It can often make people lash out at other people, and that's where things get messy.
Biggie.
Hello, I'm AniMedia, and as I'm sure Brown Memulus has told you,
Are you talking shit again? I know where you fucking live.
and I'm tired. And that's not because I was held at gunpoint for weeks on end as XP forced me to write the script promising that he won't put me down Old Yeller style like I did to his dog Sparky, but rather because I'm just exhausted. Exhausted from watching fandoms tear themselves apart so much like a bunch of cracked out coyotes. And as such, I can't help but feel drained, you know? Although, XB still did the first thing, so it's quite clear to me in XB that the obsession with Snyder's vision has reached a point where it's not just about the movies anymore, but rather about holding on to a piece of identity, a fantasy even, eventually evolving into a fundamental part of their self-image. And really, I feel like this best sums up the Snyder cult in a nutshell, because due to their unbridled passion for Snyder's work, they turn themselves into what's essentially just Batman's character in Batman vs. Superman, and that's, well, a crusader for a lost cause. And don't get me wrong, I get what they're feeling. I mean, when something resonates deeply enough with a person, it can sometimes feel like it's part of them. And in other cases, it's more than just entertainment. It's, well, a lifeline that sometimes helps people through tough times. God knows how. Yet despite this intense emotional connection, it's clear that things can go south quickly. And it's because of this that I struggle to sympathize 100% with the Snyder cult, because when the world moves on and you don't, that friction can often lead to a lot of toxic behavior, and that toxic behavior becomes almost inevitable when attachment turns into obsession, which breeds a sort of entitlement within communities like the Snyder cult, to which I know what you're all thinking. But AniMedia, surely all that passion would have led to some positive outcomes, no? And in some cases, yeah, I agree, because it most definitely did. But in other cases, it stoked a lot of resentment and a lot of hostility, resulting in a lot of harmful behavior, as some fans simply just refuse to let go of the idea that Snyder's DC universe should still be the fucking future of the franchise. And as a result, they grew bitter, more aggressive, more delusional even, and all because Warner Bros. Just so happened to have the nerve to move forward without Snyder, which is already a tough pill to swallow, and I won't pretend like I don't understand, because believe me, I do. But as the years went on, they dug their heels even deeper as they proceeded to launch smear campaigns, like falsely accusing a man of pedophilia. And it's because of this that any sympathies I may have had originally, they're just gone. And that's simply due to the cult's inability to let go. I mean, just take film news YouTuber Aaron Fisher, for example. He's a man who pretends to be neutral, with him usually covering Gunn's DCU. And as a film news YouTuber, he's usually found offering updates and opinions, which you think is good, right? Yeah, no. Aaron isn't just a film YouTuber, he's a clickbait merchant, a Snyder fan who constantly lies to fit a certain narrative, always refusing to do any research past what other people say on the internet. And it's because of this that he panders to the SNY Bots, as that's what most of his audience consists of. And as a result, it eventually led Aaron into some backlash, as he ended up reporting some unfounded scoops, so to speak.
I shared a quote 2 videos ago where I shared a quote that I found online, and I shared it in my video. And then I found out the quote wasn't 100% correct. The first half was correct. She actually did talk about the male audience when it comes to Madam Web. And my response to that would be, where were the women? Why are the women not showing up to those movies? Okay? That's kind of my response to the first half of that quote.
And what was the source for this information? Oh, you know.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
And the reason for that meaning is because he heard the quote from a very unreliable Facebook group that's known for fabricating information. And it's because of this that Aaron's claims lost all credibility for so many, because he couldn't even do the bare minimum verify any of his sources.
My intention is never to share false information or to mislead people. That is not my job here, and I am not part of the media.
Then don't make an entire video about a fake quote you saw on Facebook with no credible source, you bowling pin looking fuck. But you know what's funny? He's very much does intend to mislead people, and that's simply because all that false information he shits out daily like some kind of fucking Discord mod after eating too much Taco Bell, it's what his audience wants to hear. And as such, fellow Snyder fans tend to encourage it as they're desperate for validation. And it's precisely for this very reason that even after acting like he was above all the drama, he proceeds to be the very thing our movie news was criticizing, as he continued to make videos using local fake scooper and known Snyder fans Cinehouse as a source for his nonsense. And it's just so fucking pathetic to me, because it's a never-ending cycle of constant bullshit. Kinda like a modern politician.
Everyone comes in and says, just wait till the movie comes out. They're gonna do so much post-production work on it, and show me any other superhero film where they're gonna have to do as much post-production work on it to get that suit to look good as they're gonna have to for Superman. Just show me another production where the suit looked that bad in production. I dare somebody to show me some photos of a suit that looks that bad, because they don't exist.
You mean like this movie and this movie and this movie and hell, even this movie? Hell, you'd think a quote-unquote voice actor who's part of the industry with no post-production is a very common thing in modern filmmaking. Otherwise, half the movies we love wouldn't look nearly as good. But fuck me, I guess. I mean, what do I know? I'm just a guy who spent 2 years of his life in film school practicing to write screenplays and shit. But it's not just Aaron. Aaron may be my most annoying example of a total fucking grifter, but really, he's just a symptom of a much larger problem, and that problem is what leaves me wondering, why the fuck does this even happen? I mean, why do fans lash out instead of moving forward? Why do they cling to something that no longer exists? Hell, why do they waste their lives and mental energy on something they can't possibly begin to change? And I believe that comes down to one simple answer, and that is a little thing called cognitive dissonance, which is that uncomfortable feeling a person gets when the fucking reality clashes with our expectations, as it shatters the illusion we've built in our heads. And the reason I say this is because on one hand, the cult knows the SnyderVerse is dead and buried, but with no chance of seeing any levitating dirt rise from its casket. But on the other hand, it's emotionally still alive for some, and they deeply want it to continue, and that tension for many is, well, quite tough to handle. So to relieve that tension, a lot of them tend to direct their frustration outward, often at the very people who are creating the new content, instead of accepting that, oh, I don't know, shit changes. And it's because of that that they attack anyone and anything that threatens their ideal vision of what the franchise should be. Because to them, the idea of change is a betrayal, as moving forward would somehow mean betraying the very thing they love, which is a very unhealthy and counterproductive belief. Because outside of all the fucking toxic fanboy bullshit, the fact of the matter is that letting go doesn't mean you have to forget what you love, nor does it really mean you have to abandon the things you love. I mean, just take me for example. I hated what Warner Bros. Did with the DCEU, and of course, it disappointed me, but I didn't let it hinder my enjoyment of DC as a whole. I just accepted that it was moving in a different direction, and well, I continued appreciating DC and other mediums I did enjoy, like comics, games, animated series. And that doesn't mean I lost my passion, it just means I learned to manage it, which allowed me to appreciate the old for what it was, whilst looking forward for what's to come next. And it's precisely why in my SnyderVerse video, you could often find me complimenting the movies in certain cases, because I'm not a fucking zealot, and really, if more of us could find that balance more often, then maybe this fandom could be a lot more, well, bearable. But alas, we live in a time where change is the enemy for many. And this isn't just unique to Snyder fans either, because as much as I keep shitting on the culture of being relentless little bitches, the fact of the matter is that it's quite common amongst fan bases, whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, or hell, even anime. And that's simply because the passion for these stories, characters, and worlds, it runs deep for a lot of people. But it's also because of that intensity that can sometimes lead to emotions running wild, always resulting in heated arguments and unnecessary hostility. And really, let's face it, fandoms will always have their toxic side, because as long as people continue to hold on to their idealized versions of their favorite franchises, people will always continue to clash over different views, which is a shame because it undermines the very purpose of fandoms being created to foster a sense of community, which in turn also ruins the fun and enjoyment of what should be a collective experience for so many people. And really, it's just so disheartening to me because it only intensifies the divisiveness. So for those who aren't completely batshit insane and may or may not think meth is some kind of fucking skincare routine, just, well, try to avoid being like the Snyder cult, and, well, just have fun with what you love, alright? But on that note, I've been AniMedia, your local autistic snowflake, and now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna enjoy my lunch.
Thank you, AniMedia, you fucking psychopath. And he has a SnyderVerse retrospective video where he reviews all the movies out on his channel right now. Be sure to check that out. I'm hearing rumblings that a handsome masked fellow is in that video reviewing Batman v Superman. Hey y'all, it's me, King XB from the future. So some fuckery happened, and basically I had to put out my video a little bit earlier than Annie's. So Annie's video at the time of this video being recorded is not out yet, but still, check out the man's channel. He only has 2 videos. Watch them both. They're great. And, you know, the new one is going to come out eventually, the one that I'm in. So, yeah. And with all that being said, I want to start steering us towards my final words by talking about something that the Snyder bots would probably be really happy with me criticizing. Their mortal enemies. cult, the Gunners, holy fuck, I'm coining that, are apparently the group that runs opposite to the Snyder Bots. Instead of worshipping Zack Snyder, they worship, well, James Gunn. The Snyder Bots constantly bring them up, to the point where there was a Gunn cult cringe account made in retaliation to a Snyder Bot cringe account. Actually, there was two. They made two. It's a big point of reference for them. Essentially, the whole argument they've conducted here is that of, if you hate us but don't mention the equally, if not more bad Gunners, you're a hypocrite. And yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and act like these people don't exist, especially since they're half the fucking reason why this stupid argument is still going on. Like, for real, I'm not even excited for the new Superman anymore. Like that, the fun has been sucked completely out of the conversation. But anyway, yes, Snyder Bots are very cringe on their own, but you don't have to reply to every goddamn one of them with, "It's not coming back, cope." When I started writing the script, I saw our guy Kells get into it with some other knucklehead on Twitter about how much money James Gunn's Superman would make. And it is quite possibly the most pathetic argument you could ever have, and I think both of them need to be sectioned off from the rest of society. Aw, dude, my favorite millionaire director is gonna make so much more money than your favorite millionaire director. Case in point, I have seen enough of this behavior online to say that, yes, Gunners do exist, and they are quite annoying. And here's why the general public still hates the Snyder Bots more. I have yet to see a Gunner who actively goes out of their way to villainize Zack Snyder. Yes, they can definitely keep an argument going, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a nice thick chunk of comments pointing me to a bunch of instances where the Gunners did instigate, but from what I've seen and what I've been presented, there is almost nothing from a Gunner that comes close to as embarrassing as power scaling cookies. Even on those anti-Gunn accounts, whose only job is to catalog the Gunner's worst moments, a lot of this shit is trivial, like minute criticisms of Henry Cavill, or some fucking shit about the logo the guy doesn't like. They can barely catalog the Gunner's worst moments because the Gunners are not large enough in number to catalog. But the biggest realization I came to, the Snyder Cultist Twitter account has not been active in months. Whereas the Gunn Cultist Twitter account is still active, still grasping at straws for criticism, and still sulking. And if that's not a comedically accurate reflection of everything we've been discussing, I don't know what is. And so I want to end this video by addressing the Snyder Bots in the audience more directly, because if you've made it this far in, I would assume and hope that you are much more understanding. The pack you run with is completely disjointed, chasing after a goal that has been out of reach for longer than most of you have been able to vote. If you are even able to vote. You've all found yourselves as victims of hero worship, and yes, other groups whom you have claimed to despise also find themselves in that exact same predicament, but take your eyes off of them for a second and examine your hero. He's, for the most part, done finito with DC and has begun to work on projects where he actually has full creative control. Projects he seems to be genuinely very proud of. And it was really fucking dumb, stupid, and lame to see Snyder Bots, who genuinely did enjoy projects like Rebel Moon and Twilight of the Gods, just not be able to shut the hell up about the SnyderVerse. If you get to a point where you focus on this kind of trivial bullshit so much that it genuinely starts to affect the enjoyment of something fresh and new, I seriously think you gotta take a step back and be honest with yourself so that you can come to terms with the reality of your situation. Hell, you can even take the approach directly from your hero. Appreciate what you had, respect what's coming next, look forwards towards your future, and understand that it's okay to let things go. But I know most of you aren't going to do that. I get it. It's really fun to argue with people online, but for the love of God, just as an individual, if you find yourself doing things that the Snyder Bots do, just please, for the love of God, stop yourself. Just please remind yourself that there is nothing in this world that looks more embarrassing than hate. Can we get rid of the green screen now? That's all for this video. Like and subscribe or I'll sentence you to 3 months of Twitter politics, no parole. Huge thank you to AniMedia. That guy is fucking class. Please check out the video that I'm in. If you like my stuff, you will definitely like his. And if you like my stuff, I am very sorry for being absent. I came down with a case of non-diagnosed overall general sadness. I'm not gonna call it depression because I don't think it was depression, but I was at a very low point. I don't want to bother you with all the details just because I don't like when YouTubers get all like, oh my god, my life is so hard. But you know, I'm mostly back on my feet now. Doing this, it helps a lot. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around, and thank you so much for the support on Moon. I know I'm like 3 months late, but still. Oh yeah, and one more thing. I am kind of working on getting a set in here. Just the problem is we're working on this room still, and it's kind of hard for me to justify putting like a shelf behind me. So for a while, we're just gonna have this like blank empty space. It's like every commentator's room ever from 2016, 2017. Follow my Twitter. Subscribe to my second channel, XB's Dumpster. Subscribe here, obviously. Oh, also check out DisasterCast. It's my new podcast with my friends Parmesan Anthony and Isaiah and the Ancestors. But yeah, that's all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or whatever the fuck. And as always, go fuck yourself.
I'd like to see your secret cave. Well, Batman does